This video is sponsored by War Thunder.
Pulling one thread about the charity thing is going to upheave my entire life in a way that scares the living crap out of me.
In the months of November and December of 2023, this thread was pulled and undid Jirard the Completionist Khalil.
These allegations are slanderous, and we believe we're done with selfish intent.
This was all sparked from Jirard's family-run charity that, though they received hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations, did not donate a single penny of the money for nearly 10 years. The drama around it exposed Jirard's long history of lies, from lying that his company was covering the cost of the event.
So for those guys who don't know, we had a show last year, and it went great, but it was very expensive, and TOBG covered the cost of it.
Grossly overstating the amount his charity event, Indieland, raised.
Almost $1 million in the last 7 years.
Amazing. And this year we're doing it in person.
Even lying about the disease he is fundraising money for.
Someone who's diagnosed with FTD lasts about 6.5 months.
His sudden dip in views reflects the distrust the community now has with him, and this is how it was all undone.
Well, from the outside, his life seems picture perfect, but for a local high school student, looks are deceiving.
That was a circa 2006 story on Jirard Khalil's high school senior project. The description reads, quote, "I was on KCOW News a few years back for my first feature on the true story of my mother's illness and battle with dementia." Unquote. Jirard's mother, at the age of 56, after years of exhibiting strange behavior, was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. The Khalil family, a family of 7, had their lives changed forever. Charles Khalil, Jirard's father, an immigrant from Lebanon, the same year Jirard's mother was diagnosed, began a yearly golf tournament for the disease. Being that Charles had amassed his wealth through his company that seemed to operate in consulting gas stations and convenience stores with the knowledge and resources gained from operating his own gas stations. With these connections, major brands like Monster, Pepsi, Coca-Cola all could be seen participating in the golf tournaments. But Jirard did not want to run golf tournaments or tread the path his father had laid for him. Instead, he chose a ubiquitously uncertain path. Jirard wanted to make it in entertainment. It is not clear how his father reacted to this, only that he was not entirely supportive of Jirard, and no matter what success Jirard brought forward, it never matched his father's towering expectations.
The amount of money I've made, the lives that I've changed, the people that I've helped, all the opportunities that I've had, the cool things I could have done. My father still thinks that I'm not doing the right thing.
Regardless, Jirard persisted, enrolling in Fullerton College in 2006. This was the same year he made his first YouTube channel, JB Super Badass 11. This appeared to only host his school projects and related material. This 2009 video is likely the first appearance of Greg Wilmot, who was one of Jirard's very close friends.
Thank God you're paying me for this.
I hate to break it to you, but we actually aren't paying you for this.
There wouldn't be much else on this channel as Jirard was building a habit of scrapping projects and rebuilding them from the ground up. Like his second YouTube channel, Ari and Stone, created September 22, 2009. This channel, as the name implies, was a sketch-based channel with Jirard and a friend playing Stone and Ari respectively. Stone was the foolish, happy-go-lucky character, and Ari was a prude that sought to bring order to his friend's chaos. While much of the comedy is bland and this trope has long been utilized to much greater effect, the series captures the looseness of a 2009 YouTube.
He's right there. We found Osama. He's right there.
Hello, sirs. Would you like some homemade lemonade?
Why, yes. We would like to try your product.
Could we please have a sample of your product and your phone numbers?
I'm 12.
Not off limits to me!
This series was a flop, another unsuccessful channel that, to Jirard, warranted the creation of a new channel. One that wouldn't be so pigeonholed, and one that would be set up not only to host his content on YouTube, but to also try to promote his website, thatonevideo.com. Unfortunately, this was never archived to the Wayback Machine when active. However, his YouTube channel was, but only the channel page. The majority of videos here are missing, but are clearly themed around a show satirically emphasizing masculinity with videos such as How to Torture a Thief Like a Man, Man-to-Man Time with a Man, Episode 2, How to Cook Steak Like a Man, Now You're a Man. In the sea of lost media, one episode, specifically Episode 5 of the Now You're a Man cooking show, survived.
Once people start realizing that we puppets are strong too, then...
There will never be a puppet president! Now, don't cross the meats.
This around 7-minute long video provides a blueprint for the rest of the series. It was not entirely a cooking show and leaned more into sketch comedy, with episodes adopting different themes. The effort applied was perhaps misplaced, considering the custom-made puppets and the names on the credits show high production value. But the name, How to Cook Burgers Like a Puppet, would perform terrible in YouTube searches. That and there was no custom thumbnail. This was doomed to fail just from that, but Jirard provides a different reason for its failure.
And then I started a cooking show called Now You're a Man, the Cooking Show, and that was a fun show that I did for a while. It was very offensive, very over the top, and it was about putting bacon on everything. And then Epic Mealtime came along, and they took that market, so I had to stop that show.
This is the beginning of documenting Jirard's lies. What would normally be dismissed as possibly misremembering, misspeaking, or just another variation of simple human error cannot be done with Jirard as it happens too frequently. To start, Epic Mealtime did not quote-unquote come along. Its first upload predates the Now You're a Man cooking show by more than 2 months. Jirard also claims that Epic Mealtime took quote-unquote that market. Epic Mealtime's videos, besides already having eye-catching titles and thumbnails that strongly worked with the theme of their channel, made the food look delectable. They were unique in showing the increase in calories, relying on excess, utilizing fast pacing, and capturing well the cooking and consuming process. Jirard's cooking show had none of these things and was in an entirely different market than Epic Mealtime's. Yet in a different video, Jirard states this.
And a month before we launched, Epic Mealtime came out, and it was almost the exact same show.
These are my online gaming friends. We took a break out of destroying noobs on Blacktop to destroying your arteries on YouTube.
We got hit with a lot of copyright strikes early on, and so I was forced to take almost all the videos down.
Here, Jirard is more precise in stating that Epic Mealtime preceded his show, but severely misrepresents his show by stating that it was almost the exact same show. The only similarities between these two are that they involve food. And then Jirard pivots to talking about copyright strikes and being forced to take the videos down, but doesn't expand on where the copyright strikes come from. Whatever the case, the cooking show failed. And not only was his channel later abandoned, all the videos were deleted. This is where his YouTube presence likely would have ended if it wasn't for John Jafari, known to the internet as JonTron, a popular retro game reviewer that expanded coverage to retro media and then to whatever he wanted to make. According to Jirard, they went to rival high schools, yet somehow became friends within that time. But now in 2012, with Jirard recently graduating from California State University, Fullerton, his previous channel failing, and being dissatisfied with his job at Best Buy, Jirard needed direction, and in a way, he got that from JonTron. As Jirard explains, JonTron wanted to livestream himself playing games with Aaron Hansen. Together the two hosted the Let's Play channel Game Grumps. The only issue was they did not have an appropriate location to do so, which is where Jirard comes in because he already had a streaming setup in his parents' home. So not only did he provide his home as the stream location, but was actively working in the background swapping consoles as games as the host saw necessary. But the stream eventually winded down and JonTron left.
I'm not anyone famous, so I'm gonna turn this off. And the chat said, no! Keep playing games! What the fuck are you talking about? Keep playing games. I'm going to bed and so should you guys.
From here, Jirard states they accepted the audience's invitation to continue streaming in place of JonTron, calling out of work the following day as a result of this. It was then, after quitting his job at Best Buy and with the guidance of Aaron Hansen, Jirard came up with a new idea.
In the next few weeks, you're going to be receiving a new show called The Completionist. I am a completionist, and so each and every week I'm going to bring you guys a completionist aspect of all these games, whether they be new games, old games, archaic games.
This series, at the end of 2011, was launched through the Normal Boots website. Normal Boots was a conglomeration of various gaming creators that did not feel secure with YouTube and their constant changing of policies, or how readily they would accept video takedown requests. After the soft launch of the series, Jirard decided to expand his catalog of videos to YouTube with his own channel that went under That One Video Gamer. He also launched his LLC under a similar name around this time. And so the first episode of The Completionist on YouTube was released in January of 2012.
Yes!
But first, this video is sponsored by War Thunder. War Thunder has built up its reputation by being the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. And that's not just because of the customization, which it is very detailed in that sense. It also has over 2,500 tanks, planes, ships, and helicopters to choose from, spanning several generations. An element of the game I personally very much like is the X-ray system. This shows where a shell penetrates, so if you have knowledge of where the engine, the fuel tank, or the crew is located, you will have the upper hand in that battle. War Thunder also prioritizes ease of access. So whether you have a controller, if you're on console, or just playing a mouse and keyboard, that's all you'd really need to get into the game. That's why over 70 million players have chosen to play War Thunder. Whether it's for the epic PvP battles, the large range of vehicles to choose from, or maybe you're just a fan of military history. And yes, War Thunder is free. It is available on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. You can sign up now using the link in the description or the pinned comment. This will give you access to the massive bonus pack. This is available for new players or players that haven't touched the game in 6 months. This includes the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. This is only available for a limited time, so download War Thunder today. Sponsor over, back to the video.
Jirard knew he needed a gimmick to separate his game review videos from the long saturated market of game reviewers. The completionist angle was its own unique draw in that Jirard would focus on the entire game, and larger segments could be devoted to the difficulty or just trivia other videos may miss. But when writing the show, he felt that his comedy was lacking. That's when, as per the credits, Greg Wilmot, Jirard's friend, came in to fill that role.
It played a little bit differently, but I wasn't entirely sure.
Wait, what the hell are you doing?
What do you mean?
No, see, I do the reviews, you do the funny.
Welcome to my lair. I saw the way you floated through that door, but there's absolutely no way that you can... A lucky shot, but never... Guys!
Jirard and Greg, having built up a hearty catalog of videos on normal boots, released videos day after day. These videos were released alongside other videos that fit the trends of the time, like top 10 videos or even just spin-off completionist videos where Greg was the host. Shortly after its launch, the series had already gotten enough notoriety that the developer of Super Meat Boy challenged the completionist to complete his game. And after over 18,000 deaths, Jirard did so in the following episode. That one video gamer, with its rapid releases and unique angle, made certain that it had a strong launch. By the end of January, less than a month of its existence, it already jumped up to nearly 4,000 subscribers. But as the pacing of uploads matched the actual production schedule of around 1 episode a week, the traction slowed and the growth became gradual. By the end of February, they had only gained 1,000 subscribers. Even so, this proved to Jirard that he had finally found his niche and was quick to embrace it. He could also be found streaming on Twitch, where he both played games and hosted a podcast-style show, and on an additional Let's Play-esque channel known as Super Beard Bros. Week after week of consistent uploads meant that just a year later, Jirard had solidified himself within the game analyst community. He was a social creator who had been collaborating with channels of similar size, like game reviewer Pro Jared, who was also in Normal Boots. Mixed in with these collaborations were newer channels that were also video game adjacent.
Hello, Jirard. Welcome to your bedroom.
Matt Pat, it's good to see you.
While Jirard was easily outgrown by his contemporaries, such as Game Theory or JonTron, his consistency, a key to YouTube success, was what carried his channel's growth. Momentous as this was, Jirard's life in mid-2013 was taking a turn for the worst.
I saw this woman go from saying, give me that fork, give me that knife, give me that spoon, to give me that gray, give me that blue, give me that silver, to even give me that thing. I want that thing, to thing, to nothing.
Jirard's mother, 10 years after being diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, had passed away. Jirard and family, bearing witness to her slowly regressing state and to her eventual passing, decided to allow her memory to live on through what would be known as the Open Hand Foundation. This charity is a 501c3, and it would be basically family-operated, with the Khalil family working hundreds of hours yearly to quote-unquote evaluate charities to donate to, among other responsibilities. Virtually all the expenses went to the yearly golf charity that the Open Hand Foundation was now sponsoring. Quote, applicant estimates that it will expend approximately $23,000 to cover its expenses for each tournament, resulting in a net profit of approximately $27,000. Unquote. In basic terms, the golf tournament was to happen annually. The proceeds would go to the Open Hand Foundation. The Open Hand Foundation would then distribute the money to whoever they saw fit. Jirard was a director and was in charge of marketing alongside the shared role of evaluating charities to donate to. It was also during this time that The Completionist was seeing a major upswing in traction. Though there were no breakout videos, his catalog as a whole was getting increased interest, enough to obtain an office.
Why does it look different in here?
We have an office now. You have a desk.
What are you talking? Holy crap, we have an office!
Unbeknownst to viewers, right as the channel was picking up in momentum, there was a major conflict between Jirard and Greg. The issues were never exactly specified, but there are implications that these conflicts were related to the direction of the show, or at least the background elements that eventually saw their friendship degrade. This came to a head February 2015, right after episode 120 of The Completionist.
It's hard for me to announce that Greg Wilmot will no longer be a part of The Completionist or anything that one video gamer related. Greg, thank you so much, and I'm sure everyone at home appreciates all the hard work that you've done for the past 4 years.
Jirard thanking Greg for his time here while simultaneously being the perpetrator of his departure infuriated Greg. To this, Greg tweeted out, quote, "We are no longer friends. I did not leave willingly. Don't mistake quote-unquote diplomacy for pure fabrication. The loss of friendship has hurt most," unquote. But it did not end there. On Reddit, he gave a significantly long response. Quote, "The truth is, Jirard and I's friendship had been rough for the year prior to the falling out. We had been slowly drifting apart. I like to get my work done quickly and efficiently, then be on my way home. However, I feel I was removed due to our failing friendship and punished by the business I had no protection in. Jirard and I never worked out a contract between each other because we were best friends, and rather naively, I assumed we'd take care of each other in the end, as we did so many years prior," unquote. The reactions to this were mostly of support. Though the comedic side of the show was now dead, the audience understanding that Jirard was continuing the show were happy enough with that. All over the internet, in relevant completionist posts, there are comments stating that Greg leaving the show diminished the quality of it, but also comments stating that they did not like Greg at all. These can be found in these same spaces. Ultimately, the departure of Greg saw far different reactions. Regardless, the fact is, the month that Greg stopped appearing in episodes was the same month that Jirard's viewership stagnated. This is not to say that Jirard was not attempting to improve his content, because by the end of 2015, he had hired a team to help with production, though he was still trying to expand his craft beyond The Completionist. That's where Big Bad Bosses came in, his video game-themed boy band.
Big Bad Bosses!
This led to his most viewed video ever, but nothing else was working. To expand on this, Jirard, seeing how his contemporaries were expanding their craft from video games to popular media to just even food, wanted a piece of that pie. MatPat was a great example of this, as he was taking his theme of theory videos and moving them onto film, which brought success overnight. Jirard sought to do the same, but his format was not enticing nor was it viable. MatPat could play with ideas and just research the elements around the related story. He takes a simple concept or happening in a movie and or show and expands on it greatly. But Jirard, carrying his completionist theme onto shows, had to watch all that was available. Being a completionist of a show just boils down to being a regular reviewer. This is to say that Jirard's gimmick could not be expanded beyond games, as it was not interesting, nor was it worth the time investment. This realization that he may be stuck as the completionist worried Jirard.
Oh boy, what is next for The Completionist? Well, I'll tell you what, I don't want to be completing games my entire life, because that just seems a little bit daunting and depressing. I've been working on a lot of big projects that aren't necessarily so focused in the realm of reviewing games. I think that because there are so many reviewers out there, it makes it hard to stand out.
Jirard's goals to expand beyond his game reviews are not just sourced from the fear of pigeonholing himself, as most creators hold this fear that their craft is one note and their talents only exist in a single format. Jirard also has a task of expanding because he still deeply wants to please his father.
I thrive off of doubt. I thrive on people telling me that I can't do something. It really drives me crazy. And my parents every day would tell me, "What are you doing? Go get a real job. Just give up on this pipe dream. Go do something else." And I kept telling them, "No!"
Jirard, now in 2017, has built up quite the reputation. Not only is he liked by virtually all content creators in his sphere, companies like Nintendo indirectly endorsed Jirard by allowing him extremely high-level interviews. This year, his views were picking up a bit, but then there was also this massive change. Greg had to come back. Not to the show, but to request all videos that included him, which was pretty much every completionist episode up to 120, be removed.
I am damned if I do remove these videos, possibly legally damned if I don't. So, it's with a heavy heart that I announce that I am going to be removing all 120 episodes of The Completionist.
Jirard allowed a month for viewers to archive videos before removing them. Whatever goodwill Greg had with the completionist community was drained via this request. And as much as this hurt Jirard's channel, it also opened up the new opportunity to re-review the games he already played in his completionist series, now as New Game Plus. It was possibly this, alongside continued traction, that reinvigorated his channel and bumped his viewership from hovering around 3 million a month to around 4 million a month. Also in 2017, Jirard's story on Story Collider aired. The topic was on his mother and FTD.
Usually someone who's diagnosed with FTD lasts about 6.5 months. Mostly due to malnutrition, just not getting enough food, not eating enough, not being present in the moment.
Though Jirard was on a platform that emphasizes science and storytelling, Jirard was only focused on the latter. The average life expectancy, as seen on the AFTD website, is 7 to 13 years. It is practically universally understood that the life expectancy for those that have FTD is several years, and the leading cause of death is not malnutrition, though that does play a part. Still, it is nearly unanimous that the average life expectancy is around 7 years and the leading cause of death is pneumonia. It is clear that either Jirard got his facts severely wrong or he is lying on the spot to make himself look good.
My mom was a strong as hell woman, and she went down fighting every single step of the way. And more importantly, she is the longest lasting survivor to date with someone who's been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia. They gave her 6 months. She said, screw you, I'm going to live 15 years.
Also a strong claim, considering that multiple sources state that people have lived up to 20 years with the disease. There is something fundamentally wrong with Jirard. The silver lining is that these statements here don't really affect anything. This story reached a limited audience, so Jirard's lies were hardly impactful. Though it does put into question why he was chosen as a director of the Open Hand Foundation while not being up to date with the facts around FTD. This spelled trouble when he further invested into the charity through his own fundraising campaign.
I want to do a big charity stream, and it is called Indieland. Yeah, it's called Indieland. This is a charity stream designed about indie games, for indie games, promoting indie games, but more importantly, why we love games.
While it was clear that Jirard was incompetent, at the very least, this event was beneficial for all parties. Though the goal was set at raising $25,000, Indieland raised much more than that.
Our final amount for Indieland, all the money tallied and everything together, was $55,102.
Celebrity Jamie Lee Curtis even got herself involved as her daughter was an employee of Jirard's. Everything was looking well for the Completionist and its ventures.
I don't want to say this is the year of the Completionist, because it's like a weird thing to say. Hashtag RIP Year of Luigi. But this year has been our most successful year. It's just nonstop. We're going to hit 1 million subscribers in a couple of weeks. And that's something special.
A unique boon that continued to aid the Completionist was his clean reputation. This was absolutely necessary when it came to his most viewed videos, which were oftentimes Nintendo games. His top 2 non-music videos are on Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey and boast 4.2 million and 2.7 million views respectively. While it is not irregular for coverage of Nintendo games to perform well on YouTube, it is uncommon for Nintendo to work with creators. A benefit of this was that Jirard was able to receive games like Super Mario Odyssey early, and being that his gimmick is not so much reviewing the game, but achieving full completion, though the definition of completion can vary from game to game. This is to say that Jirard needs much more time than the average creator to release his video. The window of interest tends to close the further the video releases from the game's release date. And while it is somewhat common for review copies to be given out, Jirard's privilege extends beyond that realm. Like for a few other creators, there was a master trainer named after him in a Pokemon game. That and Jirard was also being directly sponsored by Nintendo.
This video is sponsored and approved by Nintendo!
This felt necessary for Jirard's growing company that was looking to expand into the creator space by offering services to creators like managing the merchandise sales. All of these aspects were reliant on Jirard's glowing reputation. That's why in 2019, when Pro Jirard was going through a scandal involving heavy accusations that at the time were not challenged, Jirard, seeing as he collaborated with Jirard in the past, made a tweet stating he did not condone Jirard's actions and donated a combined total of $15,000 to 3 charities. Also attached were the receipts received from each individual charity. If he donated this much in response to a friend's scandal, how much would he theoretically donate in response to his own scandal? Luckily, Jirard's reputation was so solid that this question could practically only ever be asked in theory. In 2019, Jirard was proud to, quote, report that Indieland 2019's preliminary total earnings are $109,418, unquote. With now 19 employees allegedly working under the Completionist company that won Video Entertainment, it was now more important than ever to continue this momentum. But 2020 YouTube had other plans.
At the beginning of this year in January, something changed on the YouTube front. YouTube algorithms. Surprise, surprise, right? Something changed. And my channel went from performing as it normally does to not performing as it normally does.
What Jirard is complaining about in this video was a dip in views starting January 2020, except that is false. Looking back at his social blade for the month of January 2020 shows that his channel did not only perform well, it also performed virtually the best it had ever per month at 6.4 million views. Looking through a social blade also shows that the single month that had only ever performed better was January of 2019. February 2020, however, does show a massive dip in views of nearly half, but that is only compared to January. When looking back, hovering around 4 million is highly common for his channel. This is not the only time Jirard talks about this dip. There was also this panel at PAX East 2020 where he believes he knows what caused it.
We're going to go ahead and scale back into 6 videos a month, and then when we do a 7th or 8th video, it's going to be a different video that has a different vibe to it, that is a lot more premium, that feels like The Completionist, but with a twist. In me doing that, it's been 2 months. My channel has dropped 45% in views. And all I did was, and I just didn't post 2 videos. That's all that's changed this year.
What Jirard is pinning the blame on here is where he would typically upload 8 videos, he was uploading less than that to focus on quality and experimentation. The facts are that he uploaded 7 videos in January, except in this case, as shown, this month was his second best performing month despite missing 1 upload. But what about February? This month, the month that had shown the dip, which was not a dip because it was still in the same range of Jirard's typical views, had also the typical 8 videos. Jirard is either lying or is woefully unaware of his upload schedule. Perhaps he was thrown off by the 8th video uploaded on the 29th of February because it was a leap year. What this all means is that Jirard effectively uploaded a 24-minute video complaining about nothing. This also includes his complaints about the Persona 5 episode. According to How Long to Beat, the average completionist time of Persona 5, meaning all the trophies, would take approximately 173 hours. Jirard wanted to go above and beyond by collecting all the love interest gifts. The issue with this was that you can only get 1 love interest gift per run. With there being 10 unique love interests and an additional cutscene where you romance all 10 at the same time, that amounts to beating a rather large game 10 times.
I guess the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I don't want to do it anymore. I do not want to play this game anymore.
Though he claims he started playing it since it was released and was further challenged to complete it after Indieland raised $100,000 in 2019, after 500 hours of gameplay, Jirard could not persist.
I do not want to play this game anymore.
So he issued a poll to his viewers asking what completion meant for this game. 91% stated that just getting all trophies is fine, which is what Jirard settled on when he released the video in May of 2020. This single video is bursting with issues surrounding time management, business sense, and fact-checking. To start, point 1 and 3 can be bundled into one major issue, which is time to beat a run. This is more or less correct, if only considering the first fresh run.
Average playthrough of Persona 5 is over 85 hours, with my very first one tracking on hard mode taking me 110 hours.
But with New Game Plus, if run on easy and skipping dialogue as Jirard said he was doing, it should, according to multiple different accounts, take 30 to 40 hours. With Jirard's initial run of 110 hours, it should have taken Jirard around those 500 hours to beat the game as he wanted. If we're being generous with numbers and assuming that Jirard is absolutely inefficient with his additional playthroughs and truly takes 85 hours per run, that would be around 1,000 hours. Yet he overshoots this with a number he could have only made up.
And I was starting to realize this episode would never get made, and I'd have to spend well over 1,200 hours to do this stupid task that I gave myself.
While these are all minute, rather unimportant lies, it does demonstrate once more that Jirard is a liar. And not only that, he has terrible business sense. Why even embark on such a large project with such an absurd self-placed challenge for a video that only got 1.3 million views? That places it at the 30th most viewed video, yet was a video that took arguably the longest to make. As for the rest of the year, Jirard continued his Indieland charity and his viewership remained the same. January 2021, following the pattern of previous years, was where he peaked in overall monthly viewership, this time at 7.5 million views. A top 10 video about the top 10 worst achievements was responsible for this peak. This is the perfect example of a low-effort, high-performing video that does not sacrifice quality. It still has Jirard's personality that directly relates to the subject matter of the video. However, after this month, his viewership would see a true decline. Never again would he see beyond 5 million views. And after February, that was 4 million. Jirard continued to look elsewhere for whatever could build his empire.
And I think the next step for us is, my ultimate goal is, I want to get into the video game industry, gearing the company, using the Completionist brand to get people excited for games and to help indie developers who otherwise don't have an audience, just give them a place to grow. That's a big reason why Indieland's been so successful, is because we're taking indie developers who are usually these 1 to 8 people teams that have no funding.
Jirard at this time was experiencing difficulties all around. Newly added, or rather appropriately diagnosed as he has had it since birth, was a syndrome that was reeling back with issues.
After 33 years of being diagnosed with spinal hemangioma, I was actually diagnosed with something called blue rubber Bleb-Nevis syndrome. Blue rubber Bleb-Nevis syndrome is a rare disorder that consists mainly of abnormal blood vessels affecting the skin or internal organs, usually the gastrointestinal tract. The disease is characterized by the presence of fluid-filled blisters, blebs, as visible circumscribed chronic lesions, nevis.
Jirard would need surgeries to quell these symptoms. While he had more than a fighting chance, the newest thing that he was involved in could at best be described as hopeless. Comcast was looking at the rising gaming content sphere and reduced that G4, an old defunct network famously focused on gaming before there was any competition, could compete in this industry today. The way they were going about this was greenlighting several shows that made G4 popular, such as X-Play and Attack of the Show. These would be hosted on YouTube and would sometimes be found live on Twitch. The only value this holds today would be in the original host to see where they are now, which they did, and it performed decently. But relaunching it as it was would be virtually impossible, as it would have to compete with long-established content creators with teams of just a few people that have cut into their niche audiences that also know how to prioritize profits versus production costs. G4, on the other hand, had its own studio, it was paying for the hosts that were willing to come back, and though reluctant, brought on Jirard. G4 was also utilizing their dead channels with dead subscribers, and so Jirard's reveal trailer got a measly 36,000 views. Gus Johnson, another popular creator that was also part of the G4 team, was getting tens of thousands of views, where his main channel was getting anywhere from 1 million to 5 million views. Jirard's own G4 produced show, God of Work, where he plays a video game character set in an office space, was performing even worse. This is considering the amount of money that went into the production crew and the various actors and props involved. Even with Comcast's high-end slate of advertisers, this was a catastrophic failure brought on by the ignorance of a TV network that's traditional knowledge could not be translated into the online realm. Weekly, the budgets for the show would increase and decrease. There was no consistency in the studio, and changes in strategy of how to garner attention would happen on the fly. The max amount of viewers that the G4 stream got on Twitch was 64,000. In terms of television ratings, this is abhorrent, so its average viewership of 2,000 was a complete and utter failure. It did not help that the only way this content was reaching a larger audience was through controversial clips.
But maybe later we'll get to talk about Crypto Beefcakes, which is a project that you tie an NFT to a Discord account, and then if you're a positive influence in a community, it actually inflates the value of your NFT. So heaven forbid we have avatars and communities that encourage people to be kind and supportive to increase the value of something. But apparently, that's the thing that gets me canceled today, is caring about a new technology and community. Well, you're all welcome. That's my time on this one. Yeah, it's okay to hate. I'm gonna sleep fine tonight.
To put things in perspective, these few comments did not affect the end result. G4's relaunch was doomed to fail. What it did do was give many channels ample opportunity to pick out these moments as the reason why G4 failed. The most common clip by far involved Frosk, a caster seen in gaming competitions who was known to stir up controversy and contempt in the communities he was involved in. Jirard, pushing for a female lead for X-Play, was seeking out an Olivia Munn or Morgan Webb, but what the producers decided on was Frosk. Jirard details that they did not have time to chemistry test or see how all the hosts for X-Play interacted, so the hosts were unaware of how they would present certain topics or how to interact with each other on camera like friends would. There was also a looming annoyance of the comments that were flowing in. Some stating that Jirard ate Morgan Webb and other derogatory comments that are normal and expected in the online space. But the hosts, like Frosk, typically having a line of separation and now having to deal with an active chat, took it upon herself to voice her frustration in an extremely poor fashion.
Every time G4 is brought up in various channels, even in this YouTube channel, we have the chat in front of us. I can see you. Without a doubt, there will be backlash because I'm not as bangable as the previous host. It's somehow...
Talk to him, Frost!
And that's just obvious sexism. You don't need to explicitly objectify women or declare that you hate women to be sexist. Just go ahead and check out Thorne's latest meltdown on Twitter for some spark notes.
Frosk's near 3-minute long rant was condescending, aggressive, and overly generalizing by addressing the entire audience for the actions of few. And those that made those comments no doubt got what they wanted, which was a reaction. This discourse, while not entirely against Frosk, was not very beneficial for G4. It shrouded them in controversy, though that still mattered very little because they stayed on their course of failure. They lasted about 1 year as their closure was announced on October 16, 2022. Not only was this how the internet at large found out, it was also how Jirard and the remaining G4 team found out that they had lost their jobs. This news came shortly after the Completionist's second worst performing month in the past couple of years. 2022 also had the worst performing month where views for his channel dipped under 1 million. This was quickly turning around to be the worst year for the Completionist and his company so far. 2023 was truly a different beast in terms of what it did to Jirard.
It really felt so personal, and at that same time that G4 exploded, I lost several sponsors. I was making that eShop video, and I was like, people wouldn't touch me because of the controversy at the time.
That time.
I had 2 employees quit / I had to fire one, not because I wanted to fire. I made it a goal as a business owner to never fire an employee. That was my number one promise to myself. I would never fire or get rid of an employee for any reason. And I was looking at my finances and going, oh, I don't have enough money to do this.
I think we could, in this situation, say let go.
Right.
I don't think you fired anyone.
Let go,
you had
right.
to let go.
Let go.
If what Jirard states is true, his finances are now very tight. Whatever side projects he had were apparently not enough to pick up the loss of ad revenue. Though Jirard was still endlessly experimenting with videos to no avail, he decided on a different type of video that was extremely risky when considering his company's financial state. With the announcement of the closure of the Wii U and 3DS eShop, Jirard and his employees brainstormed a new MrBeast-inspired idea where over the course of several months, their team would buy every single available game on the eShops for these consoles before the closure. While there were a few games they were not able to obtain due to those games pulling out early, they certainly downloaded the majority of them, costing them a total of $22,971. It is unknown how much this exactly cost in man-hours or other expenses related to the multi-month long production of this video. Within the video, there were also themes of preservation and that the consoles will be donated to the Video Game History Foundation. While it is committed to them, they were not taking it in likely as in its current state, due to copyright law, there would be little utility. There was also some controversy about how the Video Game History Foundation operates in relation to Jirard, but the bigger issue at hand was the cost of the video itself. Jirard, over the course of several months, was able to finance this through sponsorships.
Today's video is brought to you by our sponsor.
I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor.
Today's video is brought to you by today's sponsor.
Thank you and shout out to our sponsor.
But these sponsors were likely regular sponsors, not doing it directly to finance the eShop video. So $22,000 was spent on a video that currently sits at 1.4 million views. This means that it performed marginally better than its Persona video. This was a massive loss that was likely not profitable. At this point, virtually everything was working against Jirard. Sponsors did not come easy. Nintendo was not even giving him review copies. His views kept on dipping, and though he continued to experiment, these videos were performing so poorly that they were hurting his channel. Jirard was not doing well.
You know, it's going to sound weird. Like, I have 5 therapists. I genuinely have 5 therapists.
I have one.
Well, each one's for something different, right? I suffer from codependency in my never-ending ability to please people, to try and please my father and the legacy that he's built for us kids. I have a couples therapy for me and my partner. I have my own personal therapist. I have a business therapist to help with consulting.
Exists. We could use that.
And the last therapist is just kind of like an overall therapist that interacts with all the other ones to really track my progress and go through it.
Jirard's insecurities, his want to please his father, his biggest weaknesses were gripping him harder now that his company and career he had built up over the past 10 years were all failing. As much as he reflects on the fall of G4 and the backlash it got, this was truly nothing in terms of scale for this upcoming scandal that he would be the center of. Everything over the past 10 years would be dredged up, and a reimagining of his character that was so conflicting, no one wanted to believe it was true. This is how a charity exposed a fraud.
And I just know, because of my track record of things like G4 exploding, me being friends with John Tron when he was a racist, I've been a part of pro Jared, like pulling one thread about the charity thing is going to upheave my entire life in a way that scares the living crap out of me.
It is November of 2023. Carl Jobst, a content creator who typically covers video game speedrunners and their falsified runs, received an anonymous tip. This person alleges that the Open Hand Foundation, the charity run by the Khalil family that Jirard raises money for every year, has not donated a single cent. This is a very bold accusation, especially since Jirard has stated in the past exactly how the money is being used.
We are raising money for dementia research and treatment, more specifically helping families and those loved ones who've been affected by early onset dementia and who are learning how their lives are going to be changing forever. Raising money for dementia research. We're trying to help those who are affected by Alzheimer's, all types of dementia, and beyond. Specifically, families who have just found out that a loved one has dementia. Essentially, we're raising money for dementia research and prevention, specifically for for families who just found out that a loved one of theirs has been affected by dementia.
Jirard stated 3 different areas the money was going towards. It was going to research, preservation, to those affected. Jirard also took the bold leap of stating exactly where the money was going.
Currently working with the University of San Francisco, and we're kind of one of their main funding support partners going into all of this.
Main funding partner, support partner. This is a very strong statement. Luckily, charities like Jirard's need to file what is called a 990-PF. These files are made publicly available and can be found on the IRS website. Better yet, they can also be found through ProPublica, which gets the documents on there faster. It is here that you can find the most recent 990-PF from 2022. ProPublica also has a very user-friendly interface that charts revenue, expenses, and total assets. Immediately, it is apparent that the revenue is matching the total assets, and the total assets keep rising, which means none of the money has been donated. But then again, third-party website-generated charts are not always the most reliable. Checking the actual 990-PFs show that for 2022, the gross revenue was $170,000. The net was $106,000. This was added to the pile, which at the end of the year was, quote, cash non-interest-bearing $655,520, unquote. Looking further down, the foundation truly did not donate a single cent. It was just sitting there. To make matters worse, it was not even being invested. This means on top of the money not being donated, it was actually losing value over the years as it was sitting in a bank account not moving. In disbelief, Carl Jobst emailed the Open Hand Foundation. What he got back was an email from Jacques Khalil, a board member and brother of Jirard. Here he stated that, quote, we have been evaluating potential beneficiaries who align with our vision, entities that could use our funds efficiently and effectively without a substantial portion being diverted to administrative expenses, unquote. So it is again confirmed that the Open Hand Foundation, since its establishment in 2014, has not made a donation. Jacques also details that they donated body parts, alluding to donating their mother's body to help with research. And likely through the PBD West golf tournament, they donated money before they were an official charity. though insufficient progress was being made, so they were deciding to vet charities, hence the lack of a donation. Closing the response was two ill-conceived notions. Firstly was that Jock was stating that there are no irregularities or misuse of funds because the Department of Justice would intervene and that their financial activities are quote-unquote transparent. This is true to an extent. While the expenses are listed on the 990 PFs, they are not itemized and or described very poorly and inconsistently. For example, on the 2022 filings, the major two expenses are golf fundraiser expenses and fundraising. What does fundraising allude to? Is that Indieland or is that a separate event? What about the 2021 filings? Well, these are even less clear, as even though more was spent in expenses this year, there are only two categories: dues and subscriptions and the blanket expenses. And in 2020, the expenses are only described as expenses. To the original point, this is not highly transparent, nor does being a 501c3 make one immune to deception or mismanagement. The second notion that closed the email was Jock asking Carl if he knew of any good charities the foundation could donate to. This is a rather strange question, especially considering that the foundation documents demonstrate that every member of the board was responsible for seeking a charity to donate to. And to ask Carl Jobst is to insinuate that though they should have conducted hours upon hours of research, they could have somehow missed a charity for their very specific cause. This response only brought on more questions. Primarily, Carl asked about Jirard's statements that they were partnered with the UCSF, when in fact the Open Hand Foundation had still not donated anything, and on the Open Hand's website they were listed as a benefactor. The following email that Carl received was one of a far different tone. No Dear Carl and no warm regards. The email opens with, quote, UCSF is acknowledged on our website as part of our historical contributions, unquote. This is misleading. Unmarked donations from the Khalil family are not the same as the official Open Hand Foundation charity, which has still not donated anything. Furthermore, Jock, representing the Open Hand Foundation, doubles down aggressively by stating, quote, the insinuation of wrongdoing on the part of the Open Hand Foundation is both unwarranted and unfounded. We conduct our operations within the bounds of legal and ethical standards, and any implication to the contrary is baseless, unquote. Understanding how misleading the Open Hand Foundation is, Jock closes the email, cutting communication. Quote, we consider the information provided in our statement as comprehensive and do not intend to issue further public comments on these matters, unquote. With it clear that the Open Hand Foundation was attempting to hide, Carl Jobst wanted to break this story, but he wanted to make sure it had a fair number of eyes on it. This is where Some Ordinary Gamers, or Mutahar, comes in. Carl calls him up late at night, providing everything he's found out. Mutahar, unsure about the story, considering Jirard's superb reputation, propositions the idea to call Jirard through Discord and ask him about it.
So the timeline for it is like 2 p.m. I'm like, hey, Jirard, the completionist, are you ready for a call? He's like, yeah, give me a few hours. So we give him a few hours. In my head, I'm like, he's probably talking to a lawyer. He's not going to take this call. It's a lost cause. But surprise, a la Intervented, he was like, he's going to take the fucking call.
Did anyone tell you?
You were notified that the money was sitting there the whole time?
I knew it was sitting there at a certain point, and that's what made me proactively go about it. Like,
do you know when that point was?
I was made aware in 2021 when the money hadn't moved yet, and that's what made me go, that's not fucking cool, and that's when I got personally involved to move it. And
did anyone?
2021, last year, 2022.
There are two takeaways from the start of the call. Jirard found out that the money had not been moved in 2022. This is despite him being on the board and him running an event for the foundation. This is already negligent on his part.
So the goal on the back end for my family that I've been told is like, we're just going to raise a bunch of money and then give it to one org and like make a bigger impact rather than just giving smaller donations that don't move the needle.
I mean, as of this week, we've been having conversations about moving it as early as today or tomorrow, just because the pressure I got from you guys, if I'm being quite honest.
To break this down, what Jirard is alluding to is that his family wanted to make a restricted donation. Restricted donations are donations that go to fund something very specific within an organization. They are restricted to being used in whatever way the donor specifies. There are multiple issues with this statement, as the Open Hand Foundation has not, nor Jirard, ever mentioned a restricted donation. Many donations can be restricted in small amounts. There is no need to stockpile money. And only now is the Open Hand Foundation going forward with a donation because of the pressure Carl Jobst and Mutahar were applying. If this was the goal all along, then why would the discovery of it influence it? As much as this call revealed how unaligned the foundation was, it also revealed more of the dynamic Jirard had with his family.
The last thing I want to do is ruin the legacy of my family, of my mom and her memory, especially because this is such a personal thing for the last 25 years of my life. You know, I'm not trying to be like, do you guys want money to help me hide this? It's not what this is at all.
As far as off the record stuff is, I'm going to obviously keep, you know, any mention of you and, you know, your disagreements with your dad really out of it, because I know that's a very private, personal matter.
There is a deep conflict between Jirard and his family. There has always been this conflict, but being that whatever was being discussed is off the record and not in the publicly available recording of the call, it is not clear what this conflict was beyond wanting to donate the money sooner. Although throughout the years, Jirard has shown to be both fearful and approval-seeking of his father.
I am trying to complete something in my life. I am trying to fill a hole that's pretty large. A lot of that hole is my family and specifically the word legacy. So I have a one-man show called The Completionist Legacy, and the show is about my relationship with my father and how I am his living legacy, and that whether I like it or not, I am chasing this dragon that is to make him proud of me.
And to give you an idea, my dad would see me perform. I'd be like the lead of a play. I'd be the villain. Greasy beard, combat scene, and we're fighting, and I die. And you just hear my dad go, ah! Where did he learn this? oh, he's so bad. He's so bad. All of my teachers were like, this is why he needs to be an engineer.
I want to have built something that's going to be a legacy. I want to build something that will always remind people of the completionist, but won't necessarily be that.
When family says you jump, you jump. That's just something I've had to deal with, as you can tell with my insane lifestyle at this point.
What will become more and more apparent is Jirard finds that there is a mishandling of the Open Hand Foundation, but he always weighs his family above his morals. He always weighs his image above his morals. This insecurity of seeking approval from both his audience and family is his undoing. That and sections of the call would be construed as manipulation.
I'm just asking from a humanity perspective of like, if I am the target of this, I have 20 mouths to feed. I have sponsors. I have a business. I'm trying to make video games. I'm trying to get out of content creation so I don't have to worry about YouTube anymore and do better things in the world. And I just know because of my track record of things like G4 exploding, me being friends with John Tron when he was a racist, you know, I've been a part of like, you know, pro Jared, and I don't want to go home tonight and tell everyone, hey, there is a gigantic thing coming to claim my career and you all have to close down and find somewhere else to do. I know this is shitting me to say this. I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything, but this kind of stuff, I mean, I've been following your guys' stuff for years. The stuff with Billy Mitchell, Carl, the stuff that you've done, Muto, with tons of content creators over the years. Like, there's no nuance to this. People are going to see this and they're going to immediately go, that Jirard guy who's been nice to a bunch of people actually isn't very nice overall. Fuck him. Even if I survive this somehow, even if this is like, people are like, well, whatever, that's how it is. Yeah. It's going to take the passion out of what I do. People aren't going to trust me ever again. I'm not going to trust myself ever again. And I'm just going to walk away from all this. Like, this is like me being like, great, so I'm out. Not just of content creation or being an online personality. I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna disappear and start over and never talk to anyone ever again.
Jirard disconnected halfway through the call. This is what Mutahar says before he's back.
I'll just say right now, there was definitely there was a lot of guilt tripping throughout that entire video.
Yes.
Or throughout that entire call. We absolutely have to cover this just for the fact that this is an actual piece of fraud. Like, this is legitimate fraud.
When Jirard reconnects, after levying his woes on Carl and Mutahar, he plays his hand and asks,
I take it that you guys are dead set on making pieces about this?
I mean, I'm definitely covering.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. I guess that's all she wrote.
This was all happening behind the scenes. On November 12th, Jirard, aware of the coming storm, streamed, keenly aware of what was coming.
If you guys ever wonder what I look like after I get destroyed by the internet for anything, I just do this as best I can. No, I just mean like if something bad happens and I'm like feeling sad.
The following day, Mutahar and Carl Jobst released their videos.
Their website clearly states they support the UCSF, and they have a quote from David Kessler, the Dean of the UCSF School of Medicine, thanking them for their gift. But the interesting thing about David Kessler is that he was fired as the Dean of the UCSF School of Medicine in 2007, 7 years before OpenHand was even officially registered. If they have been looking for a beneficiary since 2014, why has Jirard been claiming they support organizations across the world, including the UCSF and the Alzheimer's Association?
We are raising money for dementia research in honor of my late mom, trying to help folks who've been impacted by dementia, working with organizations like USF, FTD Association of America, Alzheimer's Association of America, and so many more.
Why is he claiming the money is actually given to people who know how to use it? Now that they brought it up, if the filings do show an accurate account of what happened, I do think this is illegal and would be considered charity fraud. Generally, taking money by dishonest means is considered fraud. You just can't tell people to give you money under a false pretense. And you can't wait 10 years until you're caught before doing something with it either. In this case, OpenHand lied for many years saying that it was funding organizations it wasn't. Even if all of the money is still there, the actions of OpenHand were unethical and almost certainly illegal. And as unfortunate as this situation is, it does need to be called out, and there do need to be repercussions.
Carl Jobst's video also goes over some of the call, the emails he received from Jock, and incorrectly states that the 990PFs were not signed, which he later corrected. Though what the rest of the video presented was accurate, the reaction to it was initially somewhat negative. Friends of the Completionist awaited his response, but a few were egregiously misreporting what was in the video. Pro Jirard lying by stating that, quote, "This is horseshit." They're both making a lot of assumptions and accusations without being able to actually prove anything. Almost like they're presenting the worst and trying to get views off of it. They didn't bother trying to reach out to Jirard about it. No due diligence. Unquote. The irony was that it was apparent that both Carl and Mutahar called Jirard, and Jirard would have known this if he took 10 minutes to watch the video. Mutahar addressed this and other unfounded criticism in his follow-up video 7 days later. Eventually, many creators were reacting to the ongoing events, coming to the same conclusions that there was something wrong going on. As the internet continued to wait for a response from Jirard, the most they received from Jirard was him stating that he was holding on as best he can, reacting to the continued coverage of the story as it was coming out, stating that there will be a statement soon, but this could not come soon enough. Patience had worn thin. The most anyone was receiving from Jirard by late November was his continued statements on how he was doing. And then on the 30th, Carl Jobst released his video going over a newly discovered alarming inconsistency.
And so we just, every year, we try and raise as much money as possible, and then we go work with, Alzheimer's Association of America, University of San Francisco, Association for FTD, which is what my mom had, FTD. So we've worked with big and small organizations across the board.
It was now clear Jirard, when talking about the OpenHand Foundation in 2023, knowing that the money was not being donated, was bold-faced lying to his audience and friends on multiple occasions. Well, that was not the discovery that shocked the internet.
Indieland isn't the only charity event that OpenHand runs. In fact, it's only half of the story. OpenHand also holds a charity golf tournament, which pulls in tens of thousands of dollars in sponsorships every year. And the interesting thing about the money the golf tournament raises is that it seems to disappear. The main way the PBD West Convenience Cup Challenge appears to raise money is via sponsorships. Brands will pay the OpenHand Foundation to appear on banners and signs throughout the golf course, along with having the opportunity to set up tents and stands and have their employees play in the tournament. The PBD West Cup even tells us what these sponsorships cost, showing that different tiers give different benefits.
The crux of this is that the revenue of the OpenHand Foundation kept increasing. The amount Indieland was publicly earning was the lion's share of the 990PF's revenue. More and more, when subtracting the amount Indieland earned, the golf tournament, which was growing in the years prior to the introduction of Indieland, was now seemingly decreasing. By using the images of the yearly golf tournament, taking into account the posted cost of sponsorships and the participants via images of the event, the revenue on the filings was not matching up with how much should have been earned.
In the 2019 filing, OpenHand only raised $123,000, which means that somehow the Golf Cup now only raised $14,000. Every single year, the Syzygy Foundation, the charity founded by Jamie Lee Curtis, gives a grant to OpenHand. In 2021, they gave them $25,000. If you add these together, you get around $136,000. But shockingly, for the entire year of 2021, Openhand only received $136,000, which means again, the Golf Cup hardly raised anything at all.
Mutahar also did a lengthier breakdown of the subject. When given even generous earnings or the lack thereof, the numbers were still not adding up.
When you add in the grant, the Tiltify, you have maybe a few $1,000s, at best like 15 grand that one year to play around with to cover a shortfall in the books. But when you add the golf tournament, especially the golf tournament, you're always exceeding that that revenue that's posted in the books, which again is bad. Where is the money? Why isn't all of it seemingly being reported? That's a question that I now have to ask.
While both Mutahar and Carl were wanting a third-party investigation, what was wanted for most was an explanation. The filings only show the revenue, but not the sources. It is not itemized. The same goes for the expenses that are widely undescriptive and inconsistent with their descriptions year after year. And on the back end was the fear that the family was pocketing the money. There was a possibility that the money reported was not even there, that it was stolen. This was quelled when the AFTD, or the Association for Frontotemporal Degradation, announced they received $600,000 from the Openhand Foundation in December. Maybe they rounded down and did not include the $55,000 that was reported in the 2020 990 PFs that were still not up to date, meaning that they did not report on the 2023 golf tournament and Indieland. But perhaps this was to be donated at a later date for some tax or expense reason. What this did not resolve was the loss of value from the money just sitting stagnantly in a bank account. In this way, the donation is still less than what it could have been. Additionally, when Pro Jirard was going through his own controversy, Jirard donated $15,000 on a whim when he was truly not involved at all. It is also possible that Jirard's company is dry, that it has lost so much money from its projects in 2023 that Jirard could not donate additional money if he wanted to. There was so much speculation that was meant to be silenced by a response which finally came December 9th, 2023.
To set the record straight, I want to make it 100% clear. At no point in the Foundation's history was there any criminal or financial fraud. None. A lot of folks have been saying that if I didn't do anything wrong, that I should have said something sooner, or that my conversation with the accusers was considered my full side of the story. But when there is allegation after allegation being made, it takes a long time to gather the evidence and facts to refute claims. This will be my only video response on this matter.
Though Jirard positions the delay of this video as a necessary requirement for its fact-finding, his video containing virtually no receipts, itemized breakdowns of the filings, nor clarification for his own lies shows how incompetent and ignorant he is. Though Jirard does make it quite explicit that he is not involved with the golf tournament.
My father runs an annual golf tournament, and this golf event hasn't always contained a charitable component, but has always been in dedication to my mother to bring awareness to FTD. I would often be present at these events, but beyond giving an occasional speech, I was not and still am not involved in any of the event planning. I want to stress that not a dollar raised from Indieland and its supporters was ever used on anything to personally benefit me, my family, or any of our companies.
This is a very strange statement that implies no wrongdoing on Indieland's part, yet negates to bring in the golf tournament into the conversation. What's more, Jirard did attempt to clarify some of the numbers, though the lack of receipts did not do him any favors.
In 2019, the Foundation reported $123,816 in revenue.
This is correct. The 990 PS for 2019 does show that exact amount for the revenue.
But the accusers alleged that $14,000 is unaccounted for. Our books do reconcile, and these accusations are the result of bad math and missing information. The 2019 Indieland's net proceeds were $82,409.19. Here's
where the issue lies. In 2019, the year in question, Jirard stated on Twitter that the preliminary earnings from Indieland were $119,418. Preliminary earnings are net earnings. Yet somehow he states the net earnings for 2019 were actually $82,409. That is a $27,000 difference. But perhaps Jirard meant gross earnings. But when checking the 990 PF's expenses, they were not $27,000 for 2019, they were reported as $13,000 in total for 2019.
and when combined with $31,371.55 in revenue from the golf tournament and $10,000 from a direct supporter, it adds up to $123,780.74.
Using Jirard's prior statements, the lack of reported expenses still doesn't add up, and Jirard still fails to provide a receipt even after this video came out. On the topic of expenses, Indyland throughout the years was making the bold statements alongside Jirard that all the money was going to the Open Hand Foundation. And even in Indyland 2023, he reiterated this.
Thank you, Bernie Link, for the Prime. As a reminder, all bits and subs, including Amazon Primes, go towards the charity as well. So it's all a pass-through, all going for a good cause.
Yet in his response video, he said this.
Income from Twitch subscriptions and bits, along with merchandise, have offset some of the production costs.
It is common for fundraisers to recoup the cost for events, though it is uncommon for fundraisers to claim all the money goes untouched, then turn around and use the money.
Jirard taking donations to pay for Indyland is not only him spending donations on himself, it's him paying for something that he directly benefits from. But besides, what he spends that money on is ultimately irrelevant. He said he would give that money to charity, but instead, he spent it. That's fraud, that's theft, and that is embezzlement. And what makes this even worse is that he would then go and lie, trying to take credit for paying for everything himself.
So for those of you guys who don't know, we had a show last year, and it went great, but it was very expensive, and TOBG covered the cost of it, but we have kind of a rule of like, we want to make sure that like, as we do charity events, that we're not costing the charity organization or really anyone outside of our awesome sponsors. The guys at FlyQuest who've been so supportive, we want to make sure that the money that we do raise actually goes to charity and is spent properly.
Carl's video has 3 minutes of clips back-to-back of Jirard stating how all the money was going to charity. While some of these clips can be excused as Jirard states proceeds, which can mean net or gross income, it is clear that Jirard was misleading his audience and that he was recouping the cost for Indyland. Regardless, going forward, Jirard stated that he was stripping the charity aspect of Indyland. One of the few receipts he did provide was an autopsy report that none of the content creators requested.
When my mother passed away in 2013, we donated her brain and spinal cord to the same academics and doctors we worked with to further advance their research. There's a link in the description to her autopsy report that confirms her brain and spinal cord were both donated to science. This was an extremely personal decision for us. Because of my family's history, we had considered all legacy efforts that we had personally made to be a part of the Open Hand Foundation's history.
With as much confusion as there was surrounding the scandal, there are two things that are reinforced as fact in this video. Jirard is a liar, and even when apologizing, he inaccurately portrays what he's apologizing for.
Look, any way you say this, action needed to be taken. And to that point, I'm sorry. I'm disappointed that I was not more straightforward regarding the Foundation's timeline for making donations, and that I made statements potentially implying donations were made when they had not yet been.
Jirard was stating that these were applications, or something he suggested indirectly. But he directly stated,
currently working with the University of San Francisco, and we're kind of one of their main funding support partners.
That was 2020. In the timeline, this is when Jirard alleges he did not know the money was not being donated. But then this was in 2023 when Jirard knew he was lying.
Boy with my dad in honor of my mom who had dementia. And so we just, every year, we try and raise as much money as possible. And then we go work with, Alzheimer's Association of America, University of San Francisco, Association for FTD, which is what my mom had, FTD. So we've worked with big and small organizations across the board. And he was like, it'd be really cool if we did a show all about raising money for people who are making huge headways. And
it gets worse and stranger. There's a tweet where Jirard states that he raises a total of $600,000 to $750,000 yearly for various charities. These unproven claims are entirely bizarre, but don't exist in a vacuum, and Jirard's continuous lies only provided fuel to Carl Jobst and Mutahar's response videos.
Most of Jirard's video is him going over information unrelated to me, my videos, or my claims. He hardly addresses my concerns about the golf charity event money, essentially saying, we didn't take the money, trust me bro. He provides no bank statements, no accounting, nothing. Apparently, we just have to take this proven liar at his word, which unfortunately, I'm not willing to do.
It literally requires you to take this man's word, which over the course of this whole investigation has shown you should do anything but take his word, without actual receipts.
The internet finding out that Jirard was a liar was certainly shocking, as was Jirard's threats.
These allegations were made by individuals who self-admittedly aren't even financial or legal professionals. These allegations are slanderous, and we believe we're done with selfish intent.
What a pathetic bitch.
Jirard closing the video in such a way only served to strengthen the disdain of him, though this aggression is thought to have been pushed by his brother Jock, who was supposedly seen on Reddit, stating that he was the one going to push the lawsuit.
My brother was the aggressive jock named Jacques, who was 5'6", but like jumping in the face of the biggest quarterback, headbutt first into them. So that was kind of, abrasive guy.
Those Reddit comments no longer exist, so beyond a screenshot, it is hard to prove that Jock was continuously instigating. As for the rest of the Completionist Reddit, what was once a subreddit dedicated to the discussion of Completionist episodes had turned into a place to follow the ongoing drama. A mod, exhausted with the ongoing discourse, made the announcement that any new post related to the ongoing drama would be removed, going as far to interject their own selfish reasoning. Quote, "These last several weeks have been very difficult on me. Having to sit by and watch people tear down a person that I have talked with personally multiple times, as well as someone who had been a cornerstone of my life for over 10 years now." Unquote. And there were attempts to shift the conversation back to the Completionist episodes, but Redditors were not so enthusiastic to engage in such conversations. At this point, the mods just set the subreddit to private, and a newly erected Completionist 2 that allowed free speech filled the void of its predecessor. It was here that a 5-minute long compilation of Jirard stating all the money was going to charity could be found. Additionally, it was discovered that Jirard was removing comments talking about the charity in his videos. In terms of lessening the backlash, this was hardly effective. Also in December, his character was removed from the indie game Sea of Stars, which there were memes made about. Mutahar released a call with Jirard, and various creators that either knew Jirard or of Jirard found his actions to be reprehensible. There was even a harddrive.net article about Jirard 100%ing his career, but Jirard did not seem to think so. After a break following his response video, he released a new Completionist video in January of 2024.
Before we start today's video, I want to recognize that I know that I have lost a lot of your trust at home, and I want to spend as much time as it will take to rebuild and re-earn your trust. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to put in the commitment, and I hope you give me a chance. So with that said, thank you for being here, and thanks for watching. Everyone who knows me knows that Super Mario RPG is one of my favorite games of all time.
That awkward transition between lightly addressing heavy allegations to then shifting to the Completionist series did not win over viewers. This is made clear by the top comments he forgot to delete. On Reddit, there was a particular comment, or rather post, that was garnering attention. Greg Wilmont came back from the abyss to comment on the situation. Quote, "I'm happy to say that my hands are entirely clean in this situation. This whole ordeal is one of the exact reasons why I had to remove all of my videos. I had a feeling that there would be some sort of controversy associated with that family after my departure, and I wanted nothing to do with it." Unquote. The other channels Jirard was involved in followed suit and announced they would be continuing without his involvement. Jirard has continued to upload videos despite them being poorly received. His Social Blade shows that his views have fallen to 500,000 a month, and his videos, though they have been rebranded to exclude his image from the thumbnails, cannot wipe away the stain of a serial liar. On a stream in March, he expands on where TOVG is now.
I've made the tough decision to close down the office. And so we're in the middle of closing operations and moving everything to my house. And so we're kind of trying to build like a completionist set, if you will, in my garage.
Where he once boasted all the employees that worked on his videos in the description, now in current uploads, none are found. Though the charity money at minimum was donated, this scandal changed his image. Where Jirard was once viewed as a pillar of the community that had the purest intentions, has now been rebranded as a pathetic manipulator who will lie on a whim to enhance his appearance. Jirard is untrustworthy, irresponsible, and morally conflicted. And at most, Jirard is a fraud.
Thank you again for War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to play for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox using the link in the pinned comment or the description of the video. There's also the massive bonus pack for new and returning players that haven't played in 6 months. Again, this is available across all platforms and includes multiple premium vehicles and in-game currency and more.